so that folks can buy fresh stuff.
Awesome, Jeremy. Glad to have you here.
I'll go. I'm Jessica from Nourish, Colorado, Chef Jess. I have a little home garden, definitely nowhere near the level of what other people have, but I do take practices that I learned from calls like this and just other partners to do cover crops, and was recently reading about winter stratification for flowers, native plants, and that whole process as I'm trying to convert my front yard into more of a native yard. So that's me, excited to be here and start the year off again. And I do have to jump at like 8:27 for a call at 8:30.
Awesome. Glad to have you here.
Next, my name is Taylor. I'm a chef that works with Jess at Nourish. I can't even grow weeds right. So I did buy a bunch of seeds from Pueblo Seed Company this year, so I'm going to give my garden another shot. But I would really like to get into it, considering I'm a chef and I just love cooking with fresh produce, and it'd be awesome to cook it from my backyard.
Okay, I'll go
Awesome.
next. Good to meet you all. Good to see our old friends. Daryl Birkenfeld, I'm Executive Director of Oglala Commons, and we've done this call almost 2 years. This would be pretty close to the end of the second year. But yeah, I just try to keep the soil covered in the winter in my beds, and I put my food scraps directly on there because it gets so cold that flies don't get in it. And you know, all about putting a roof over it so the microorganisms have a home and have a good winter so they can go to work for me and for us.
Awesome. Thanks, Daryl.
This is Alice. I'll go next. I'm Alice Hill from Bray, Kansas. That's the north central part of Kansas. A fairly new area for me to garden in. This is the beginning of, I think, our fourth, maybe fifth, I lose track of time, summer. I'm working on setting up a local food market. We've finished up our first year with that. I grow in a specialized type of high tunnel that's called a topless high tunnel, and it allows the snow and the rain to go into the protected area, which is awesome. I don't have to irrigate when that happens. What I'm doing this winter, I was able to purchase a really cool tool called an AgriSweep. I bought a used one at a great discount, and I can pull that behind my riding lawnmower and go out into the horse pasture, where the horses are wintering, and it picks up all of the manure and wasted feed and throws it into a nice big catch bag. And then I have created a pretty large mountain of composting manure now that will winter over and probably cook all summer long, then be ready for use a year from this coming spring, so that it'll have time to really break down well. I'd never had a method of capturing large quantities of organic matter in the past. I can only scoop and shovel so much. I'm 65 and limited energy levels. So this is a really wonderful tool, and I'm looking forward to trying it next summer by growing a green manure crop that I can mow and also then pick up with that AgriSweep. I was told that it'll actually pick up waste alfalfa out of a field, which if it can do that, it'll be able to do what I'm hoping to do, so that I'll have a green source for my compost as well. That's it.
Well, Alice, you can just ride across the road and into that alfalfa patch of your neighbor, right?
Well, there's no alfalfa right near us at all. It's back in Rawlins County, we had our own alfalfa field, but no, there's just pasture near us. So, but that's okay.
Awesome. Thank you, Alice. B, would you like to go?
Yes, this is Peter
Great.
Laredo from 230 Mexico. Uh, I'm representing David White Legacy Market Ministry today in La Casa Verde Floral Nursery. We were recently on a Zoom with Daryl and Suzanne and the group here from Tucumcari. And so David has a 2-acre farm, one greenhouse on that farm, and then at La Casa Verde Floral Nursery he has 2 greenhouses. And so he couldn't make it today. He's constructing a roof on La Casa Verde while the weather's pretty. But he would have liked to make it. But that's what he does. We grow vegetables and sell them retail at La Casa Verde. And he's into the schools now, selling into the schools. And so right now he's growing lettuce and kale and Swiss chard in the greenhouse, and that's what we're selling. But our main function right now are cut flowers, bouquets, especially for funerals this time of year. So that's what's keeping us afloat right now. All right, thank you.
Great. Thank you, B. And Bob, I think you're last on our docket.
I'm an engineer and I'm working on processing cattle manure and biomass. Effectively, we can also end up with a cultured organic compost and a liquid fertilizer that we want to essentially restore soil with. So this, in the bigger picture of this is how to transform the essentially our open agriculture into more closed loop agriculture. Closed loop and restoring the soil, improving the essentially the growing conditions, and saving a lot of water. So that's what we're up to. We have an old ethanol plant in Tucumcari, and we're going to refurbish it. And anyway, it's a big engineering project. But I support David White essentially with his water and greenhouses.
Thank you, Bob.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bob. I think you're our first nutrient recycler on our call. So that's awesome. Well, great. We were going to move into talking about some food tours and summits that OC is going to be putting on, hopefully close to home for some of you guys this year. And we're going to start with one that we have coming up in February on the 23rd in Spearman, Texas. So I'm going to share my screen with you and narrate that. Awesome. So we have our local food summit 4.0 coming up in Spearman, Texas. It's kind of like North Panhandle. And I just wanted to go through some of the speakers that we're going to have presenting in that. We're going to have an awesome panel on getting started in food production and crafting. We had a really cool call at the end of last season where we got to hear some Whitney Crabtree talk about food preservation, I believe. So they're going to be giving us a little down low. And then we're going to moving into feeding community first and hear from our very own Alice Hill. And she's going to talk about what it takes to really kind of localize our food supply chains and how we can put tangible numbers and ideas around feeding our communities. And then Deanne, who's down in Tarzan, Texas, in the Permian Basin Food Shed. Then we're going to move. Yes.
Can we back up just a minute there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So this is really great to have this document, Blaze, and thanks for curating this. I wanted to bring this to everybody's attention because anytime we gather with these local food summits, and again, we'll have one in Tucumcari, we hope, this summer, one up in Colorado, Southeast Colorado somewhere. And then I'm sure we'll have, we'll try to have one in Kansas as well. But this first one is an attempt to try to bring some of you together. And we had Alice Hill in Mosquero last fall, and that was really good, talking about high tunnels. But Alice, maybe you could just talk a little bit about what are some key concepts that you're working on with Feeding Community First, just to give everybody a little taste of what you'll be talking about in Spearman.
Well, I guess in a nutshell, it's a methodology for strategizing to your own unique community setup, your population density, your ethnicities, your growing conditions, what is needed, how much is needed, who's going to provide it. I tried to break down each item, such as how many pounds of poultry do people eat? How many pounds of chicken? Unfortunately, a lot of the data refers to things that are processed foods, but it still gives you a starting point. How much beef do people eat? And then how many animals does it take to produce that amount of poundage, and then correlate that to your population density? It's certainly not an exact system, but it's a starting point. It's a template that can be taken from one community, expanded onto other communities. There's so many rural towns that have no grocery stores, and yet we could be feeding ourselves first. And that's what my concept is. Rather than mountains of Milo sitting at the elevator, we need to be feeding ourselves real people food. So that's sort of the overview of it.
What I think is really interesting, why we call this 4.0, is this is our 4th year of doing these local food summits. So every year it's different. We've talked a lot with local food producers, crafters, about marketing and things like that. But digging down to 4.0 on local food sheds is how do we feed the community first? And so what's amazing, I think, about Alice's work is you're working on these numbers, Alice, but you also have Step Back in Time Market with some other people. You want to say just a little bit about that?
Sure. The Step Back in Time Food Market is it's in its infancy. We just completed our first year, and we didn't start in January of last year. We started in April, so it wasn't a complete year. But we, in our community of only about 200 people, we are generating about $1,000 a month in food sales of things that we're producing either locally or within Kansas based. And we just added other items in during the winter months to help tide us over through the non-growing months. We have beef, eggs, baked goods made with Kansas flours. We have an awesome vendor who they have a hydroponic system north of us, and they're providing just beautiful fresh greens that people are lined up at the door basically to come and get those. What else do we have? Sunflower oil, the Kansas produced sunflower oil, beans, dry beans, things like that. It's going really well, and the enthusiasm, the loyalty of our customers is truly amazing. So this is the beginning of showing people that there is a demand and that it can be produced, and it's just baby stepping along, but we're going to get there.
Hey, Alice, did you have a figure about how much money flows out of Luray and Lucas and those 4 communities?
Well, these are approximates, but I based it on what the average family spends on food every year. And in our community, which I included only 4 townships, which is not a very large area, but it's an important area, as all small areas are. They're equally important, but it's almost $10 million annual amount of food dollars being lost just from our own community. If 100% of the people bought into this and bought 100% of their food locally, $10 million could stay within our 4 township area, which would be a significant economic boon. There's a lot of ifs attached to that.
Thanks, Alice. That's really a good introduction to what we'd like to hear. I mean, what you'll be talking about. I think another person on that panel, Blaze mentioned Dee. Deanne Yates. She's been on this call many times. But it's just going to be too hard with the stock shows and her grandkids. So she let me know this morning she won't be able to make it to Spearman, which she's really bummed about. But we'll hear from her on calls, these monthly calls, and meet her some other time down the road. But the other person on that panel is Suzanne Bell-Schneider. She was a city manager in Spearman, and yeah, she took it upon herself 2 years ago to start Texas High Plains Food Hub just for that county. She got extension involved, county extension, and a few other growers, and with no blueprint, started a little what she called the food hub. And I think they learned a lot from it. They weren't able to do it this past summer, but she'll have some, I think, some really good experience for us to reflect on of how do you feed community first and rebuild the food shed in that way. I just wanted to highlight that part of the morning. Blaze mentioned that getting started in food production. This is just an idea that, like many of you on this call, you've either grown a garden or you're trying to grow food. So that's really, we always want to give a presentation about that. But yeah, all the time people are starting to grow some of their food, and that is a vital part of the food shed and rebuilding the food shed. So we have some people different levels talking about that in that first panel. So and then Blaze was mentioning the food preservation. We had a lot of fun with that in November. Those three, well, we had two ladies. They'll be in person along with Mia Dacus that day to get us really hungry before lunch, talking about ways of preserving food, which really is another unspoken, often unseen part of the food shed, the ways we preserve and feed ourselves with food.
Thanks, Sarah. I read this really great quote in Race Forward. They put out a racial equity framework for food hubs, and they talk about true food justice isn't filtering relationships through market-based transactions or institutional settings, but it's allowing spaces for true community engagement. And that's kind of what I think these summits kind of do, is they help people just network in like real grassroots, like meaty places to connect. And to me, those are true markers of like food resiliency and food creativity. So yeah, and those ladies, they were throwing out preserving green tomatoes for pie filling. So they have some pretty wild preservation techniques that I think yeah, it's good to move around that knowledge. So
I wanted to call them up and get some elderberry syrup when I was not feeling well last week. When I had so yeah, they talked about a lot of practical things. So that's the morning. Blaze, can we look at the afternoon really quick?
Absolutely.
So again, this is going to be in a small town of Spearman, which, I think hopefully would allow people from Southwest Kansas to come and Southeast Colorado if they were able to. But the afternoon is really about this whole thing of meat processing. And we know from our communities what's happened the last year and a half, 2 years, with people trying to get their animals processed or slaughtered locally, and all the trials with that, how small meat processors are overwhelmed and sometimes booked up for a year. And maybe has lessened with some, but there's still a lot of backlog. So there's a person in Kiowa, Colorado, and like Alice, he used to live in Northwest Kansas. That would be Chris Schmidt. Yeah, he started building mobile processing trailers and sells them around the country. And he will come to this summit and give a presentation about those processing trailers as one tool for local meat production. And he can talk about how that's worked out. And he has mentioned that he might be able to bring a trailer to Spearman. And you never know this far out, but that would be cool if he could. Then we could just jump in there and check it out. Responding to him are some meat producers and processors that I think will be really interesting. Brittany Borden has been on this call a number of times for 4B Meats. That's right there in the same county as Spearman. And they use primarily a processor in Stratford. So she'll talk about that. Our good friend Justin Trammell will be on this panel, and he can tell us about the trials and tribulations and the opportunities with trying to get a local processing plant going. I don't want to steal any of his thunder. They're still not open, but it's not because they haven't done everything that they need to do. They just need the final inspection. And so he'll be there. And something I read about a month ago and went and acted on, I read in the Kansas Leadership Council's annual report about a meat processor in Meade, Kansas, which is southwest Kansas, about 2 hours north of Spearman. So this is a great story. Chad and his wife, Chad Seibert, he used to process game, and he said he got about 100 calls from people saying, "Hey, I need my animal processed and I cannot get it in anywhere." So they decided this was a reason to create a business. And this will be a great story when we hear it. They took the old bowling alley in Meade, Kansas, and repurposed it as the locker, as the meat processing facility. He did get a $60,000 grant from the Kansas Department of Commerce, and that helped him buy some equipment. But almost 2 years in, seems to be doing really well, and really providing an opportunity for local people to get their animals processed. So I've talked to him and he thinks he can come and be part of our summit. So there's some reasons for you all to come. I don't know, Chef Jess, if this is something you can do, travel out of state or
I
Taylor?
was just chatting with Taylor about this to see like how could we potentially make this happen, at least one of us if possible, because this would be great learning experience, and also to see how you're planning to do something similar in Southeast Colorado, right? And
Yes.
yeah, make that happen. So it's on our radar.
Okay, well, it's again, really grows out of these monthly calls and learning about people and then trying to bring some of these folks together. So it's a little far from northeast or east from Tucumcari, B and Bob, but if you wanted to come out, I believe this is where Daryl Baker is from originally, one of your producers in Tucumcari. I think he's one with Panhandle. So that's what we're offering that day. And again, it's one of several local food summits we want to put together. So there'll be a brochure about this, I think, ready by later this week, and we'll send it out to everybody. There's one more person on there, Daniel Kalunga. I'm hoping we'll get him. Daniel's a college student, Silverton, Texas, and last summer he did an internship where he interviewed and found and wrote stories on 8 or 10 producers, local food producers, and he did a really good job. So I'd like to include him in our summit if he can get out of class that day, because he's a sports and exercise major, but he's a good storyteller, and he really is interested in who's producing local food. And I think this is an important part of our rebuilding local food systems, is getting those stories of our neighbors and our local food producers and crafters put together in some way that a larger public can read them and learn about them. And that's part of the work he's done, and we'd like to bring that together that day. So good. Well, Jess, do you have to jump off right away, or do you want to say anything about something coming up soon, or do you need to?
Yeah, so we're doing the LoProCo, Local Procurement Colorado workshop series. It's more of a farm to school, farm to institution workshop. That we just made the call. We're going to be launching it on March 11th down in Southeast Colorado. Los Animas High School will most likely be the first location, and then we'll be doing 2 more over the course of the year, most likely falling in winter, late fall 2022, 2023. So those are coming, and Taylor and I will be back in the region a handful of times over the next couple of months, and maybe even try to tack on a visit down to Southeast Colorado with this producer summit, since we'd be down in the region and it wouldn't be as far of a drive. So my wheels are turning, and I do look forward to continuing to join these calls again and continuing to learn. But I have to run.
Thanks, Jess.
Bye.
Yeah, good to see you. All the best.
Thanks for being here.
Anybody have questions or comments about the food summit, or otherwise we'll just talk about other ones or other events we're planning?
See, there's a Nurse a Nickel motel. Is that the only spot to stay at, or?
Jeremy, that is a good question. I didn't even know they had a Nurse a Nickel there.
That's the only one I can get to come up.
Yeah, right. Well, if you're coming from your direction, it's not too far from Guyman. Guyman, I
Okay.
believe, is 37 miles north.
There you go.
So it's kind of on your way if Guyman works for you. Guyman, Oklahoma has more lodging opportunities. Yeah, we'll have to look at that, Blaze. I didn't know about the Nurse a Nickel. We were looking at Perryton is 20 minutes away, and Perryton
Okay.
is 12,000 people, but it's the wrong direction for you. So Guyman might work better.
Okay.
But
It's not too far for the morning, but there's a time change, so.
We're going to have some local food that day, and just a chance to get face to face, which is so important. Again, to have people like Alice there, and a lot of other folks. So if that's the only comment about that, I'll talk about, and Blaze, you can feel free to fill in too. I want to do a couple of bus tours. And again, these would be in Texas, one in Amarillo. I'm not sure when, but possibly April. And this would strictly be to look at farms, small farms or crafters. So in Amarillo, would like to put together a bus tour where we would look at, it's a pretty interesting thing on the north side of Amarillo called, Blaze, am I saying it right? Square Mile Development.
That's correct. Yeah.
So they have been doing some really great work, and they have one of our farmers that we've had on this call, Danny Milius. He's got one of his farms on 6th Street in Amarillo. And I think that would be a really cool urban farm situation to look at. And they're really serving low income residents and things like that. Nearby is another cool place. We'll be out at Wildorado, Maverick Malt. So, we all know that you can get malt from Colorado, and that is good and appropriate and proper. But these guys are growing some malt closer in the Texas Panhandle, and helping to provide that ingredient for, craft brewers and others. Haven't set this up, but it's an option. Another one would be one of these hydroponic growers like H2 Ponics, which is more on the south side of Amarillo. We could even see Danny's place, but I think Danny Milius would have something to do with Square Mile. And then it would be great to go, I think, and end the tour between Amarillo and Canyon, where Justin has that new processing facility, which hopefully will be going by then. So that's an idea for Amarillo Canyon. So I would like to do it before we get to the farmers market season, because that always taxes the growers, and they're like, no, we don't want to do anything except we're plenty busy. So I'd like to get it organized before then. Once we put it together, y'all will be the first to know. We'll put it out, we'll make a brochure. And again, since it's a bus tour, all you'd have to do is get to the load up place and then make the tour. So the bus would provide the transportation. In another local food summit we want to do this summer would be in Tucumcari. So I just really need to talk to Tabletop Cooperative, who would like to do that in collaboration with. But maybe it could be in the summertime, and like July or August. that really needs to be worked out, but it would be wonderful to see what you all are doing. Bob, to see that some of your ideas and how they're working out, or any of the growers, and just how that's helping to rebuild the local food systems around Tucumcari. Any thoughts on that, Bob or B?
Well, we'd be pleased to give a tour and show you everything we got and all the great plans and what's working and what's not. If that's useful.
Great.
Well, this is P. I'm just going to say that's, of course, it'll be very busy time for planting and harvesting, but we'll try to accommodate you on that. But that would be a good time to do a farm tour also. While the plants are up.
Maybe it also would help to attract some more people to your markets. Never know, but it could. So we had that summit in Mosquero, and that was nice. But when you're at the end of the growing season, there's not a lot to see, and you can do things in a building and talk to each other, and that's not all bad. But it might be nice to be out where things are being grown and farms are being tended. So we'll keep talking about that. Taylor, do you want to say anything more about what Jess started on about Low Pro Co?
Yeah, we made the call yesterday. We're moving it from the 28th at the end of this month. We're moving it from there to March 11th. And the idea is just to get local producers and food service directors from the school districts in the area in the same room. And from my side, on the chef side, we've got a lot of different trainings in the kitchen, working with these actual school kitchen workers on how to use specialty equipment to break down local produce, different sort of recipes that use local items. I'm super excited about it. That's the background that I come from, is chef training. So it's something that I think that area needs. There's so much food that grows there. And there's such a disconnect between some of the local farmers and the schools. We visited a farm that was about a block away from an elementary school that in 25 years never bought from them. And even something easy as melons that they grow a lot of. So yeah, that's the whole goal, is to get everybody in the same room and try to get everybody on the same page as to how we can make farm to school in that area kind of a norm.
B, that's interesting, B, to hear that you all are selling to school and Tucumcari, or is David's doing that?
Yes, Tucumcari and Logan now. And that was through a grant that was set up. So of course, it depends on the availability of the product, the produce, that he would have. I think his last sale was probably bell peppers to them. And so right now, like I said, he's mainly growing just in the greenhouse there on the farm. So it just depends on the produce we have that we can sell to him.
Yeah.
So it's kind of lean sometimes if they're not in school in the summer, and that's when we need to sell the produce.
That's a good point. Well, it's still good to hear. I think we've had Jeremy talk on this call about all the experience you've had with getting this started and going and viable in the state of Colorado, and now to hear what Low Pro Co is putting together, and then all of us in the other states wishing we had something like that. So it's good to know in New Mexico there's some of that going on. One thing OC will try to do is we're going to put a proposal to Amarillo Area Foundation for rebuilding Panhandle food sheds work, and if that gets funded, Jeremy, we will have a farm to cafeteria not to have too many summits, but we'll have some kind of farm to cafeteria meeting for the first time in the 26 counties of the Panhandle. So we're going to need you for that. And Taylor, we'll have to call on you and Chef Jess as well. But I think that is something we're working on that hasn't come to fruition yet, but it's on our radar. Blaze, what else needs to be added in here?
Well, I was just gonna say, or ask Jeremy, what successes have you seen in like the last like few years that have been huge for like the local Colorado food scene?
Well, I think it's trying to think what, Pueblo's done some good stuff, getting more local in there. I think having it institutionalized a little bit within our state agency has helped. Because when Farm to School started, it was outside of, it was one of the only legislated task force in the nation that had a Farm to School task force. And so that's kind of how the work really began. But for it to continue, we knew it had to get institutionalized into a Department of Education or Department of Agriculture. Well, in Colorado, the Department of Education is the one over the school nutrition meals. And so that's where it's housed. And so that's been helpful for us to continue to have success. I know they got a grant to help with some work in Colorado around this. And so I'm a little out of the loop as to what they're doing here recently, just because I'm not an operator in Colorado. But I think that is key, is to getting those systems in place. And what you're want to do in Texas is exactly how we did it in Northern Colorado. We started having convenings, and the Farm to School program in Greeley started with one purchase of cherry tomatoes for about $300, and then was able to grow that over the next 5-6 years into $100,000 worth of produce buying. So it really, and we tell people, start small. You should. It helps the farmer. It helps the receiver of the produce to get their systems down, for everybody to understand how payment is made, how the bid process works. And then from there, it can really, once people see that it works, having an advocate from the growing community helps not only with school districts, but really helps get other growers excited about it, because they're hesitant to add this to their revenue mix. And so once I had a couple of good champion farmers, they really helped me sell the program for my operation, because they were a trusted voice in their community.
That's
Alice?
awesome.
Yeah. Hey, Alice, do you foresee doing anything with feeding the local school and in the townships?
Well, we certainly need to, and I had done some early steps on that when I first moved here. I connected up with the school in Sylvan Grove. Luray doesn't actually have a school any longer. It was closed down quite a few years ago. So the elementary is in one town, the high school is in the other town. The high school prepares the meals that are then taken to the elementary school. I met with them, worked with them on writing a grant for better utilization of an existing greenhouse that they have on the property that could be really utilized well. We were successful in getting the grant, but the supply chain broke down, and the items that we had requested to purchase were no longer available by the time the grant came around. I think they basically had to just drop the whole project, and I'm too far away to be a key player in it. I offered any assistance that I could, and I would certainly step up to that plate if they asked. But right now, my focus is just on the Luray community, one step at a time. When we get to that point where we're talking the 4 townships, the schools would be integral to that. And one option that might be of interest to other people, we did discuss the use of the school cafeteria during the summer months to process locally grown foods that are seasonal, so that they could be packaged up, frozen, and then served through the winter months at the school. They were limited in freezer space. That's an issue that would have to be addressed. They did not know who would be the labor force to do that processing, but that's a fully licensed kitchen, excellent equipment. It's already in place, and during the summer months is just empty. They were excited about the idea. They just didn't know how to take it any further. And then things sort of just dropped because of the COVID issues during these last 2 years.
Alice, that's exactly what we did in Greeley, was take in particularly zucchini, peppers and onions and shredded them or chopped, and then had them put up for the rest of the school year. Basically, we got to that point so that we could puree them into marinara sauce and into other recipes. 'Cause,
Perfect.
it was plentiful. I live in a town where you have to lock your car during zucchini season, otherwise they'll bless you with a little bit too much of it. So I think it's a great way to extend the season when you don't have a long growing season sometimes. And I think in your case, like we would have to do in Springfield, it's probably a volunteer labor force. Maybe having to pay a kitchen manager to be there because they've got the food safety certification. So fundraising around that, but then really getting some volunteers in there to just chop it up and get it going.
Yeah, that's perfect, Jeremy. Thank you. It's so good to see that those first steps have been taken so that people can see that it is possible, it is doable. Thank you. We'll be back in touch as things go
You
forward.
bet. Yeah, of course.
Jeremy, has John mentioned to you about the great zucchini slice off, or what are we going to call that this summer?
I don't I'm ready for it though. Yes, I have heard about it.
Okay.
I think that is going to be our first big step in Springfield, is to take in zucchini and grate it and freeze it. So and it doesn't take a lot of space, even if you can just do a couple of rounds for your menu, because a little zucchini goes a long way. So that'll be helpful, I think, for smaller schools.
Bob, I wanted to ask you, what are kind of like the outputs on the other end of your facility in terms of soil amendments? No, we're not talking compost. Are you just like moving manure along to get through its heat?
Yeah, we end up digesting the manure down to a smooth slurry, but it's got a lot of lignin in it. So it has a solid output and a liquid output. The liquid can be directly applied to fields, and essentially it penetrates down to the ground. So that's very nice liquid fertilizer. But the solid is actually desirable for a fertilizer manufacturer who then can pelletize it. And but we also want to culture it. So we compost it before it goes to the fertilizer manufacturer. So it's loaded with bacteria and fungus, the things you want in your field, because we have a high temperature process, and it has high temperature bacteria. They don't do anything for your field. So it's effectively sterile. And then what we do is then we have to reculture it for either the fertilizer manufacturer does it or we do it for them. And then the idea is it's an ideal fertilizer as a soil amendment. But a lot of the soil science is saying you need a culture, and the culture is more important than the mineral content. So you go, okay, great. We need an active culture. So it's sort of like giving yogurt to the plants. Yeah, they need that active culture. And a lot of our soils are badly damaged and do not have the soil culture they need. So the idea is to figure out what soil culture you want and put it into the fertilizer and deliver it so that it actually goes into the ground and not just sit on the surface. So that's some of the trade.
That's really interesting, Bob. One person who's coming to the Spearman event is Kim Barker from Winoka, Oklahoma. And I was just talking to him, and yeah, he's really, I guess some of his Mennonite friends in Hutchinson, Kansas area have some kind of whatever to make this kind of culture to apply to the soil, and they were getting amazing bricks readings on their grass late in the summer. So he owns some. He went and bought some kind of thing, not to make compost tea, but something like it, to try to raise to put this culture into pastures. So he's going to be there. Experiment, and he's been doing local food production, eggs, pork, beef in Winoka since well, I wouldn't say day one, but 2002 probably. And so I didn't mention him, but he'll be there. And
My artisan.
yeah, you would be kindred spirits on that. So somebody else to talk to.
Yeah, effectively are going to try and do this in industrial scale. So we're talking millions of gallons of material.
Yeah.
And being able to deliver it in a form that's easy for all the farmers to apply.
Mhm.
Not something that you have to have a lot of equipment and work with the farmers to deliver it so that it can be delivered and used effectively.
Yeah, I think about, I've never worked on a farm where we were able to produce enough compost to amend the beds. It's like, it's always just like a hobby kitsch practice in the corner of the property, but you never do you have the amount of inputs you need to actually prepare your beds after heavy feeders.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a mechanical engineer. So the whole idea is how to effectively arrange the system to be able to handle large quantities and do it in an exact, repeatable way. And saying, okay, this is the system, we'll make it in large volumes. We're trying to take what artisans have known, people who have small farms, they know how to do this, but it's taken time, it's not exactly exact. So how to do this so that you can deliver as needed and customized. We have to customize it to the different soil types and different, climates and what water is available and what kind of crop is going to be on that field. So that's the game. This is sort of the future of agriculture, saying we need to improve our agricultural systems and we need to restore the soil. It's badly depleted throughout most of the United States.
Yeah. Soil first, food second.
Blaze, with that, maybe we could look at the topics for upcoming calls.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me just share again.
So as Blaze is doing this, I just want to let everybody know, Ogallala Commons is trying to do our part and really step up and meet the challenges for rebuilding local food systems program. So now Blaze is our program coordinator, and he's been on our calls some last year, but now he'll be leading the calls, which is really great. So Blaze, welcome aboard for that.
Thanks, Daryl. Yeah, some of the topics that we have for the next several months are feeding the soil, looking at compost and organic amendments and organic fertility, and using cover crops and green manure and how to use cover crops appropriately. We're going to look at water conservation too, like what varietals in your area are bioregionally acclimatized to droughts and to hotter weather. And we're gonna look at crop planting, how to do rotations, cover crops. We're gonna have one that I'm really excited about. It's lineage and heritage. And so kind of just storytelling around our practices in connection with the land. How do we get started in this? And who we're walking with now, like who are the voices around us that are informing and guiding our land stewardship practices. Yeah, I heard this really great podcast for this. He was actually a musician talking, and he was saying, if you could put me and then my dad and my dad's dad and every generation in the same room over the last like 40, 50 generations, it's only me and my dad that can't talk the language of the water from the skies and what the soil is doing and how to prepare land and how to walk with land. So I found that pretty fascinating. Yeah, and we're going to look at health standards and local regulations, and Justin's going to talk about his local processing plants and hopefully have a Chef Jess one as well, and what everyone's doing there at Nourish. So yeah, those are some topics that we have coming up, and we're excited.
Well, great to have all of you on today. And if you have any ideas for topics, please let Blaze know. So this is every second Tuesday we'll go, of course, February, March, April, May, but then we'll break for June and then July to November. And if there's any alterations to the schedule, Blaze will be letting us know every month. Week before the call, he'll remind us, and then a couple days before, send the link and another reminder. So you can't possibly forget that way. But Blaze, what do you think we'll cover next month? Will that be soil?
Yeah, I think soil. How to feed our soil.
All right. So Bob, you can expect to hear from Blaze and put some good presentations together to stimulate the discussion next time. Anything else you want to say, Blaze?
Yeah, I have. I put together some seed packets of some sunflowers that we grew this past year. My partner and I, some different kind of warriors of the garden. So big, showy reds and giant yellows that can take a lot of pests, and then some tea that we grew this year. So if everyone's comfortable sending me their mailing address on email, I have everyone's names down, so I don't leave anyone out today. But we just wanted to send you some seeds and some tea from our land. So
That's awesome. Thank you.
yeah. Well, great. Thanks so much for everybody being here. Again, I wanted to just end with another quote that I think would be good for us to chew on as a group. And this is from Priya Parker. She wrote The Art of Gathering and how to come together. And she says, you need to reverse engineer an outcome. Think of what you want to be different because you gathered, and work backward from that outcome. And so maybe that's not something we answer today together, but I would just love for there to be some like intentionality undergirding this time, and let it not just be another Zoom call like on the Google Calendar, but like, what is an outcome that we would love to have together as a community of growers and food advocates and soil engineers. So just something to sit with. I'm really thankful for everybody being here today.
Thank you. Good to see y'all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Take care.
Awesome. Bye, everyone.
Everyone, bye.
Bye.